Welcome back, trainers, and since we have the increased lucky friendship as well as increased chances for Pokemon to become lucky when you do trade them without having that lucky friend, we're going to be going over the best Pokemon you possibly want to be trading. Now, personally for myself and Scarlet Witch, last night we did quite a few trades other than this guaranteed lucky trade in which we became lucky friends. We traded a ton of Pokemon, I'd say around 25 or so, and Zero became lucky for that quote possible increased chance to become lucky without being lucky friends. But you know, that's just our odds. But nonetheless, here we go. I have the Germanitan, which I'm going to evolve, or the Darumaka. So this one is going to be the best fire type, and this is going to be the one that I'm going to make the power of. Now obviously I'm going to make more than this. I'm probably going to go maybe like 2 or so. I don't want to go too crazy because there is going to be something outperforming it in the future. Now, taking a look at these beautiful spreadsheets that were made by Couple of Gaming, as well as the information pulled from Gamepress. So let's go ahead and take a look at the best types. Starting off with Bug, we have Pinsir with Bug Bite and X-Scissor, then Scizor, then Yanmega. Now, personally for myself, I like Yanmega the best. I'm a big fan of Scizor as well. Pinsir is cool and all, but the thing about Yanmega is it is going to be flying and as well as bug type, so it has a doubled up resistance to fighting as well as having that flying type, so it can do super effective to fighting. So those are your top bug types. Going into the darks, we have Darkrai with Snarl and Dark Pulse, Hydreigon with Bite and Dark Pulse, and then Tyranitar with Bite and Crunch. Now, the difference between all of these here, Darkrai is going to have a massive output of damage while not being the tankiest one around. Hydreigon is going to be kind of like the middle ground. It's going to be putting off great damage, more than Tyranitar, but it is not going to be as tanky as Tyranitar, pulling it up at the rear, but it is going to be able to last longer than those other two dark type options, and we all have plenty of those. So Tyranitar is pretty solid. Hydreigon is expensive. Darkrai is expensive too. You're more than likely going to have to put rare candies into it. And then moving into the dragon types, quite a bit of competition here for these. So we have Rayquaza at the top, as we all know, with Dragon Tail and Outrage, then Palkia with Dragon Tail and Draco Meteor, then Salamence with Dragon Tail and Outrage, which is going to be a Community Day move. Moving on to the next, we have electric types. Raikou is going to be that number 1 with Thundershock and Wild Charge, then Zapdos with Thundershock and Thunderbolt, then Electivire with Thundershock and Wild Charge. Now, out of all 3 of these, I'm more likely going to be investing in a Raikou than a Zapdos. Now, I have a Thundershock Zapdos shiny as well. That Thundershock is going to be only obtainable during that raid day that we did have, so you're gonna have to trade if you weren't able to get one during that time. Electivire is a solid option as well. Moving into fairs, we have Togekiss with Charm and Dazzling Gleam in that number 1 spot, Gardevoir with Charm, Dazzling Gleam, and then Granbull with Charm and Play Rough. Now, honestly, the 2 best fairy types are the ones in the front. As far as Granbull, that's going to be a little bit behind the other 2. So you're better off going with Togekiss or Gardevoir for sure. Togekiss is going to be a tankier option than Gardevoir. And then fighting types, we all know Lucario is going to be that number 1 with Counter and Aura Sphere. Then we have Conkeldurr with Counter Dynamic Punch, and then the prior king of fighting, Machamp, with Counter Dynamic Punch. Now, as far as Lucario, that one's going to be a little bit more difficult to obtain, seeing that you can only get it through the 7 and 10 kilometer eggs. Currently for the event, you cannot hatch them out of 7 kilometers thanks to those red Pokemon. Yay! Conkeldurr is going to be obtainable through 10 kilometers and raids. Well, at least Timber. And then when you do trade it, it's going to cost you 0 candies to evolve it into Conkeldurr, which is a pretty solid deal. So those 2, Lucario and Conkeldurr, definitely something on your list for this event to trade for lucky. Now, moving into the next bit here, we have fire types, the newly added Germanitan with Fire Fang and Overheat in that number 1 fire spot, Entei with Fire Fang and Overheat, then Moltres with Fire Spin and Overheat. Now, this is just myself here, but I'm going to pass down the advice as far as fire types. Germanitan, yes, number 1. Number 2, I think you may want to go for Moltres, seeing that it's going to have that dual typing of fire and flying. Moving into the flying, as you can see, it is going to be that number 1 spot with Wing Attack and Sky Attack. So yeah, secondary move on it, it's going to be expensive, but it's going to be pretty nice just fluctuating between the 2 and just switching up that quick move for whatever typing you're looking for. And then for the second flying type, we have Air Slash, Aerial Ace, Rayquaza, then Honchkrow with Peck and Sky Attack. Moving into the ghosts, Giratina Origin Form. The thing is absolutely amazing. Shadow Claw and Shadow Ball, Chandelure with Hex and Shadow Ball, and then Gengar with Lick and Shadow Ball. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, wait a minute, I thought Chandelure had better DPS than Giratina Origin. This is correct, but a total plus DPS and TDO, Giratina is going to be pulling up. It's going to be able to last longer in that battle while putting off more damage at the end. Same with the Gengar with Lick and Shadow Ball and or Shadow Claw and Shadow Ball. It is going to be doing more damage than Giratina and Chandelure, but it is going to be falling extremely fast, and that is why it is in that number 3 spot, extremely glassy. Now, as far as Darmanitan, taking it back to the fires really quick here, as far as how long Darmanitan can last in that fight, it is going to be a bit squishy. It is kind of like one of those glass cannons, not as cannony as glassy, I should say, as Gengar, but it is still not going to be able to stay in that fight as long as Entei and or Moltres. Really depends on the Pokemon you're going up against, right? But as far as the ghost types, the one that you possibly want to invest in, the most solid one, definitely Giratina Origin form, and then Chandelure followed up behind it. Chandelure is a solid lucky Pokemon for sure. And then we have the grass types here. Coming in that number 1 spot, we have Roserade with Razor Leaf and Grass Knot by far in that number 1 spot for grass, and then Tangrowth in that newly added number 2 spot because of Power Whip as well as Vine Whip. Pretty neat that it actually is able to reach these spots like this. And then we have Venusaur with Vine Whip and Frenzy Plant being a Community Day move, of course. And then moving into the ground types, we have Groudon in that number 1 spot with Mudshot and Earthquake. Very circumstantial, depends. If you're going up against an electric type, Garchomp is going to have an extra resistance being Dragon and Ground as well, so that one might be another solid option. But yet again, with Niantic's switch up on Community Days, I know that Gible is going to get a Community Day just because it's shiny release. We've been over all that, right? So number 2 is going to be Garchomp with Mudshot and Earthquake, then Rhyperior with Mudshot and Earthquake. Now, I don't think you should be lucky trading any of those. Maybe the Groudon, as far as Garchomp, you can do Gibbles, you can do Rhyhorns, but don't evolve all of them. Don't make a bunch because they're going to get Community Days. I feel like Rhyperior is going to win, and then Garchomp, like I just stated, is going to get a Community Day in the future. So don't make too many of those because they're going to get better moves. Moving on to ice types here, we have Mamoswine with Powder Snow and Avalanche, Glaceon with Frost Breath and Avalanche, and then Weavile with Ice Shards and Avalanche. The ones that you want to possibly lucky trade, maybe a Weavile because its dark typing is going to benefit you as well. Mamoswine, it's not a bad option. Glaceon is pretty good as well. The choice is yours for those. Moving on to the next ones here, starting it off with normal, we have Porygon Z, which I personally think is going to get a Community Day as well in the future, and the move is going to be Tri-Attack. So we have Lock-On with Tri-Attack combination. That's going to be amazing. So it's going to have Lock-On and Hyper Beam currently as number 1 normal type, then Amphi-Bomb with Scratch and Hyper Beam number 2 spot, and then Porygon in that number, or Porygon 2 in that number 3 spot with Lock-On and Hyper Beam. Moving into the poison tier, so as you can see, Roserade is going to be a solid Pokemon to trade because you can purchase a secondary move and have both grass and poison, and then just TM the quick move for whatever typing you're looking for. Number 1 poison is going to be Roserade with Poison Jab and Sludge Bomb, Toxicroak, Poison Jab and Sludge Bomb, and then Victory Bell with Acid and Sludge Bomb. So definitely want to go with that Roserade lucky trade for sure. Moving into Psychic, we have Mewtwo, of course, with Confusion and Psystrike, literally the highest DPS outputting Pokemon in the game. Then Latios is currently in the raids for now in the weekend, Zen Headbutt and Psychic, and then we have Metagross with Zen Headbutt and Psychic. So obviously, out of all of these, Metagross is going to be a good one because of the steel typing, as we'll see here in a minute. Mewtwo, absolutely, it's a must lucky trade with that Psystrike, especially if it's shiny. Moving into the rock types, we do have Rampardos with Smackdown and Rock Slide, which can possibly get passed by Rhyperior with Rock Wrecker. We'll just have to see what the numbers are for that because we do not have any data on Rock Wrecker. Number 2, Terrakion with Smackdown and Rock Slide, Tyranitar, Smackdown, and Stone Edge. Now, Terrakion is going to be able to survive a little bit longer in that fight over Rampardos, but Rampardos has massive DPS with Rock Slide and Smackdown, so that one may be a solid option for you to go with for your lucky trades for rock types. And then moving into steel, we have Metagross with Bullet Punch Meteor Match, an absolute must. So Metagross, Roserade, Moltres, Darmanitan, all of these heavy hitters with possibly dual typings on the side. I know Darmanitan doesn't, but the ones that have dual typings that are showing up secondary on the lists are things that you're probably going to want to go with. Then we have Dialga with Metal Claw and Iron Head, and then Excadrill with Metal Claw and Iron Head. Excadrill, another fantastic option as it is going to be one of the best ground type attackers. It wasn't on the list because it is very squishy. And then we have Kyogre with Waterfall and Surf. Surf is a newly added move. Then Swampert with Water Gun and Hydro Cannon, and then Kingler with Bubble, and Crab Hammer. So we know Kingler is going to be the best damage outputting, but very squishy. Kyogre is going to be a solid one to go up against raids, and then Swampert is going to be fantastic for multiple different things, especially with Mud Shot. Now keep in mind, before we end this video here, a lot of these Pokemon are going to be ranked not by specifically DPS, but how much DPS as well as how long they can last their TDO. So that is why some of these are ranked like that. Otherwise, Kingler would be in that #1 water type position as far as damage output, right? So I hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up, share it with your friends so they know which Pokemon they should possibly be lucky trading for, or just trading off their basic stages to see if you can get lucky. Thank you for watching, trainers, and I'll be catching you all next time. Take care.